Hello. I'm I'm just looking at everything that's going on with the riots itself. I'm kind of watching and reading around to it. I think a lot of this shit is becoming more evident that we're reaching into another crisis. Initially, for what's going on right now. I mean, looking at this, we're already seeing a woman get shot. That's an Air Force veteran. We're seeing 3 die from the siege of the Capitol. I'm even looking at Oregon, where I live. It just seems like the more that we were faced 6 months ago, more or less 5 months ago, we're reaching another stage where people are not happy with actually what's going on, and people are protesting, which is perfectly fine. I think you should absolutely protest on what you're trying to go for. I think the biggest issue from how I'm looking at it is that when we initially protest, I remember when when we were taking the knee for initially as a protest, and people were disregarding it and creating problems for that, and you already saw how that outcome led to another outcome and then led to another one. For me, I really hope that there was a sort of piece of what we could find after what happened. But looking at this, where someone that's people are getting killed for something that they believe in, and I think that's saying a lot. It's saying a lot. And when I initially watched the last time we did the protests, what did we call them? We called them riots. And when we initially came out later, what are we calling this when Trump supporters are saying what they need to? They're calling them terrorism. As I recall, because I live in Oregon, and initially what they were trying to do is they were setting a bomb, or one of the people people that were protesting were trying to set a bomb into the building. And I didn't hear terrorism during that time. What I was hearing was initially that it was rioting. It was an act of retaliation based off of what was going on. So to me, I think where we're at on how people are willing to depict it, and I was watching a little bit of live stream, not very much, because honestly I believe a lot of it's just adding a lot of words to fluff it up, just the same way that you'll read books. They just add certain parts that depict the whole book, but you're getting this much information when initially the rest of this is fluff. I think a lot of it's coming from the fact of how they're saying the writing, or however you're depicting and saying words, are really strong. Well, I think you disregarding this as a terrorism, and then you disregarding it as a riot, I don't think that's right in its own sense. Because you're right, words do have its own certain way of how you could look at it. Now, I absolutely believe people should have the right to, say no. I really do. I believe that everyone has the right to say, I don't believe in your shit. I don't like what you have to offer. I don't like initially what you have to give to me. So I think if I have to protest and I have to say and speak my mind in order for you to listen, I think that's a really strong, very, it's very assertive in how you should be living. The only way shit usually gets done is if you say no and you put your fucking foot down. Some days you're gonna have to say, I don't like this, I don't believe in this, I don't agree to this. And to me, it's just really difficult for me to explain in words when I'm watching this from more of a third person view, because initially I'm not there. I'm not, in that scene of where I'm watching it hands on. But I think the bigger thing is, if you believe in what you do, you should absolutely protest. But like I said, if people are getting shot, people are getting killed, just make sure you know where that's going to be leading. It doesn't slow down. It doesn't go away. It usually, if a force meets another force, it usually tries to retaliate back, correct? So there's always going to be a sense of resistance no matter what you do. So if someone tries to lament to oppression and someone says no, that resistance comes back. And there's always going to be a pushing tide. And I'm really happy that people are willing to go to that lengths to say that. You really shouldn't have that way where one person setting the rules, one person saying this is how it's got to be, this is what you're going to be like, and this is exactly how you should sit into this block. Like, for what I was saying before, where you gotta shave, sometimes you gotta shave your shit down. Some ways you gotta make sure, if it's a fucking square, you gotta make it a fucking circle sometimes you have to apply yourself, and you have to say how you feel about it, and you can't just talk about it. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes it just requires a human being or a group of human beings to say no, to stand up for what they believe in, and I can respect that. Like I said, I really don't follow a lot of initially what's always going to a day-to-day, because there's just so much information I can take in, and there's so much time I have throughout a day. But if you keep watching through this, I think it's respectable and how initially the protests went. Now, what I'm interested in is where it began to escalate. Where was the initial escalation, and what happened to that video when that woman was shot fatally? I want to know. Like, I think that's a very important thing, because if it's, I mean, we mourned for a man that was literally, choked out for fucking 8 minutes. And now we have a woman that served for us in the Air Force fatally shot. So for me, in all the scheme of things, I think we should look at that as well. I think that's a very important signature on why we should be looking at it. And I think we should look at all the rest of the people that have died from that siege, because they initially died for something that they believe in. Now, I'm not agreeing completely on everything that is going on, but I do understand, and that's the main thing. For me, I'm not trying to be this type of guy that's like, I know everything, but I'm always willing to listen and to understand from a different point of view. We don't have to always meet eye to eye, but I should be able to shut my fucking mouth for like 10-15 minutes and listen to initially what's going on. So, to me, I think we should become more involved with what's going around with what's going around our states. We need to know why shit is hitting to this point. And if this frustration is leading on and our ignorance is not becoming suffice with our knowledge or information that's going around, because as you know, like I've talked about it, the printing press and all that stuff, information becomes diluted very easy in this world. That's why I like only things off of camera. I really do. Anything that dilutes initially of the talk, because like I said, I mean, you keep passing words and voices around enough, eventually it becomes to a certain point where you don't really know. That's why I prefer to do things like this on camera, so no one can actually delude what I say. I mean, they can make fun of me of what I say, but there's no dilution. It's just right here. This is what I have to say. So, to me, we should investigate what's going on, how the escalation rised, why this woman got shot, and why these 3 people died from that siege itself, and where these arrests are coming from, because we gotta know. We can't just let people put us in jail. Like, for me, I just don't think how shit works. We live in the government. We have these rules set aside for a reason, so in which we should try to find our way to support these people as much as we can. Like I said, we don't always have to meet eye to eye. We really don't. But we do need to respect each other and understand where we're coming from. So, I mean, I didn't want to make a long-ass video, but I'm just trying to depict that whatever that's going on in these states, it could escalate more, and our negligence could be a much... It could... How should I say? It could increase. It could be its own snowball. Us neglecting this, or because we don't want to see it, it's gonna make us feel uncomfortable. That's the way shit works. You need to learn to be uncomfortable with information sometimes. You need to be saying like, oh, I don't like it, too bad. I'm uncomfortable with the situation that we're in. We have to understand it no matter what. Because us turning a blind eye to it, it doesn't solve the problem. The problem's still there. So, that's all I had to really say. Just good luck. I apologize for the families, but you know what I mean. We really got to look into this. Like we should really start learning and start taking care and start. You know what I mean. Let's take care of the business first, and then let's begin to mourn for them even more. All right. Thank you. Good night or good morning.